There's something powerful about saying it out loud. I'm going to win. Not because life guarantees me a smooth road, not because I've never stumbled, but because I've chosen to stand back up every single time I've been knocked down. Winning doesn't mean being fearless. It means daring to move forward even when fear is sitting in the passenger seat. It's a declaration that no failure, no doubt, no whisper of "you're not enough" will keep me from stepping into the arena of my own life. I may be bruised, I may be scarred, but I am not broken. And in this moment, with every breath, I am choosing courage over comfort, resilience over retreat, and hope over despair. That is why I know I am going to win. Winning is not about perfection, but about showing up with courage despite fear. Too often we confuse winning with flawless execution, as if the only way to succeed is to never make mistakes, never fall short, and never feel doubt. But the truth is, the people we admire most, the ones who create meaningful change in their own lives and in the lives of others, are not perfect. They are people who choose to keep showing up, even when they're terrified, even when the odds seem stacked against them, even when their knees are shaking and their voices are trembling. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to move forward with fear by your side. Think about the times in your life when you've learned the most, grown the most, or surprised yourself with what you could handle. It probably wasn't when everything was smooth and predictable. It was when things felt uncertain, when you doubted yourself, when you weren't sure if you could get back up. In those moments, perfection didn't carry you forward. Courage did. Courage was the voice that whispered, "Just take one more step." Courage was the force that made you raise your hand when you wanted to stay silent. Courage was the quiet strength that helped you try again after you failed the first, second, or even 10th time. That is what real winning looks like. There's a myth we carry that winning means being the best, standing at the top of the mountain, holding the trophy, proving to the world that you're flawless. But winning is not about standing at the top. It's about having the guts to start climbing in the first place. Every climb is messy. You slip, you fall, you scrape your knees, you lose your breath, and sometimes you question why you even started. But the climb itself, that act of continuing despite the discomfort, despite the fear, that's where the real victory lies. Perfection tells us to stay still, to play it safe, to only step into the spotlight when we're certain we won't mess up. But courage invites us to show up messy, unpolished, and real. Winning is built in those messy moments, in the willingness to be seen as we are, in the decision to keep trying when perfection would have us quit. It's in the shaky conversations where we speak our truth, in the projects we launch even when they're not perfect, in the dreams we chase when others call them unrealistic. That's what sets courageous people apart. They win not because they never fail, but because they refuse to let fear or imperfection keep them out of the arena. When you let go of perfection, you make room for growth. You make room for creativity, for resilience, for unexpected opportunities that you could never script. Courage gives you permission to write your own story instead of trying to follow a perfect script that doesn't even exist. And when you live from that place, you begin to understand that winning isn't about the finish line. It's about every brave step you take along the way. Vulnerability is the birthplace of strength and resilience. It might sound strange at first because we're often taught that being strong means building walls, keeping our emotions in check, and never letting anyone see us struggle. We grow up hearing phrases like, "Don't let them see you sweat," or "never show weakness," as if the only way to survive is to hide the very parts of ourselves that make us human. But the truth is, every ounce of real strength we've ever experienced has been born out of moments when we allowed ourselves to be vulnerable, when we admitted we were scared, when we asked for help, when we risked showing up without guarantees. Think about resilience for a moment. Resilience is not about being untouched by pain or immune to failure. Resilience is the capacity to bend, to be shaken, to be stretched to your limits, and still choose to rise again. That rising doesn't happen when we're armored and closed off. It happens when we lean into the raw and uncomfortable spaces of life, when we let ourselves feel the full weight of our challenges instead of pretending they don't exist. Vulnerability is what gives us access to that resilience because it forces us to face reality with open eyes and open hearts. Some of the bravest acts you'll ever witness aren't the loud, dramatic victories, but the quiet ones. The person who gets out of bed when depression tells them not to. The student who raises their hand to admit they don't understand, risking embarrassment in order to learn. The leader who stands in front of their team and says, "I don't have all the answers, but I'm committed to figuring it out with you." Those are moments of vulnerability, and yet they are also moments of extraordinary strength. They remind us that resilience doesn't come from pretending to be invincible. It comes from being real, from showing up authentically, even when it's uncomfortable. The irony is that vulnerability often looks like weakness from the outside, but from the inside, it feels like the hardest thing in the world. It takes courage to tell someone you love them first, not knowing if they'll say it back. It takes courage to launch a business or share your art, knowing it could fail. It takes courage to sit with your grief and let yourself cry, rather than numbing the pain or hiding it. Each of those moments requires you to step into uncertainty, to risk rejection, to face the possibility of loss. And yet it is precisely in those moments that your capacity for resilience grows. When you choose vulnerability, you stop hiding behind perfection and control. You allow yourself to be fully present in your own life. And when you are present, you discover that you can endure more than you imagined. You find out that strength isn't about never breaking. It's about learning how to rebuild. Resilience isn't about always standing tall. It's about finding the will to get back up when you've been knocked down. Vulnerability doesn't make you fragile. It makes you powerful because it invites you to live with honesty, courage, and a heart wide open to the possibility of growth. True victory comes from owning your story and not hiding from it. Every single one of us carries a story that has shaped who we are, our triumphs, our heartbreaks, the moments we'd proudly share with the world, and the chapters we'd rather rip out and pretend never happened. But the paradox is this: the parts we want to hide are often the very places where our power lies. When we deny our story, we live in shame, constantly running from the truth of who we are. But when we own it, when we say, this is me, this is where I've been, this is what I've survived, we take back control. That act of owning instead of hiding is where real victory begins. There's a deep kind of freedom that comes with being honest about your story. It doesn't mean you celebrate the pain or mistakes you've made, but it does mean you stop letting them define you in secret. Imagine carrying a heavy bag everywhere you go, but never admitting it's there. You try to smile, pretend it's light, act like you're fine. Over time, that weight breaks you down. Owning your story is like setting the bag down and saying, yes, it's heavy. Yes, it's mine. But it no longer controls me. That honesty lightens you in ways that pretending never could. We live in a world that praises polished images, highlight reels, and success stories scrubbed clean of their messy beginnings. It can make us believe that to be worthy, we need to hide the cracks, erase the scars, and only show the best version of ourselves. But people don't connect to perfection, they connect to truth. The leaders we admire, the friends we trust, the people who inspire us, they're not untouchable. They're real. They've stumbled, they've failed, they've hurt, and yet they've stood in the light anyway. That's why their victories feel meaningful. Because they didn't erase their stories, they embraced them. Owning your story doesn't mean everything is resolved or tied up with a neat bow. It doesn't mean your past magically stops hurting. It means you're brave enough to look at it, to acknowledge it, and to refuse to let shame or fear dictate how the rest of your life unfolds. It means saying, this happened, it shaped me, but it does not define my worth. And in that moment, the very thing that once felt like a wound becomes a source of strength. The scars you carry stop being marks of weakness and start being reminders of your resilience. When you stand in your story unapologetically, you begin to see yourself differently. You stop hiding behind masks or trying to live someone else's version of success. You learn to lead with authenticity because you understand that the raw and unedited parts of you are not liabilities. They are your power. And the more you own your story, the more space you create for others to own theirs. That is the kind of victory that doesn't just transform your life, it ripples outward and gives others permission to step into their truth too. Every setback is proof that you are still in the arena, still fighting. It's easy to see failure as the end of the road, as a sign that you weren't good enough, strong enough, or smart enough to make it. But what if failure is actually evidence of courage? What if every stumble, every misstep, every time you fall flat on your face is simply proof that you dared to show up in the first place? Because the only people who never fail are the ones who never try. And staying on the sidelines might protect you from disappointment, but it also keeps you from growth, from discovery, from the possibility of something greater than you ever imagined. Being in the arena means you've chosen to engage with life, to risk being seen, to risk getting hurt. It means you're not content with watching from a safe distance while others take the risks. You've stepped in, you've taken the chance. And yes, sometimes that chance will lead to falling flat on your back. But even in that fall, you are learning, you are stretching, you are becoming someone stronger than you were yesterday. Every setback carries with it the seed of resilience, the chance to rise a little wiser, a little braver, and a little more determined. The truth is, setbacks sting, they hurt. They make you question yourself. They whisper lies that maybe you're not cut out for this. Maybe you should just quit. Maybe it's safer to stop trying. But those whispers are not the truth. The truth is in the fact that you dared to step into the arena at all. The truth is in the courage it took to act when the outcome wasn't guaranteed. The truth is in the grit it takes to stand back up and dust yourself off after a fall. Every bruise, every scar, every disappointment is not evidence of weakness. It's a mark of your willingness to fight for something that matters. Think about the people you look up to, the ones whose stories inspire you. Do you admire them because they never failed? Or do you admire them because they failed and they kept going? Every innovation, every breakthrough, every triumph you've ever heard about has a trail of setbacks behind it. The victories we celebrate are built on countless unseen failures. And that's what makes them powerful, because they prove that setbacks are not the opposite of success, they're part of the path to it. When you're in the arena, you're going to get knocked down. There's no way around it. But those knocks are not signs you should give up. They're signs you are alive, you are daring, you are in motion. They are reminders that you are testing your limits, pushing your boundaries, choosing growth over safety. And every time you rise after a fall, you're building the kind of strength that can't be faked, the kind of resilience that only comes from lived experience. Setbacks don't mean you're losing. They mean you are still in the fight. And being in the fight is what gives you the chance to win. Declaring, I am going to win, is less about outcomes, more about choosing hope over fear. Too often we think of winning as something external, crossing a finish line, getting the promotion, receiving the recognition, reaching the goal. And while those moments can be beautiful, they are not the essence of winning. The real victory is in the decision you make long before the outcome is known. It's in the moment you choose to lean toward hope instead of letting fear dictate your choices. It's in saying, even if I don't know how this will end, I refuse to let fear keep me from trying. That choice, that declaration is where winning truly begins. Hope is not Nava. Hope is not pretending that everything is easy or that success is guaranteed. Hope is choosing to believe in possibility when fear is screaming at you to stay small. Fear will always whisper reasons to sit it out. What if you fail? What if you look foolish? What if it doesn't work out? Hope, on the other hand, asks different questions. What if you succeed? What if this risk leads to something extraordinary? What if you discover a strength you didn't know you had? Choosing hope doesn't erase fear, but it shifts your focus toward possibility instead of paralysis. When you declare, I am going to win, you are not making a promise that life will unfold exactly as you imagine. You're making a promise to yourself that you won't let fear have the final say. It's a commitment to show up, to try to give your best, and to trust that even if the path looks uncertain, you will keep moving forward. Winning in this sense is less about the trophy at the end and more about the courage it takes to stay in the game, heart open, hope alive. This kind of declaration matters because fear is loud. Fear thrives in silence, in hesitation, in the moments we shrink back instead of speaking out. But when you declare, I am going to win, you're speaking a truth into the world that strengthens you from the inside out. You're reminding yourself that your worth is not tied to a single outcome, but to your willingness to keep believing, to keep showing up, to keep daring. That's a kind of victory no external achievement can replace. And here's the beauty of it, hope has a ripple effect. When you choose it, you give permission for others to do the same. Your courage to declare that you're going to win, even when you're still unsure how, shows people around you that they can face their fears too. You become a living reminder that winning is not about being fearless or flawless, but about walking forward in the presence of both fear and uncertainty with hope as your guide. That declaration is not just for you, it becomes a light for others. And in that light, you realize that the greatest win of all is not a medal, not applause, not external validation, but the simple and radical choice to believe in yourself and your future more than you believe in your fear.